Hello and welcome to some more Star Citizen. Today I wanted to talk about some of the infos discerned from the Happy Hour where they created the solar system and the subscriber town hall on VFX. In Happy Hour, they've recently created a solar system showing off SolEd, a powerful tool CIG have created for Star Citizen, allowing creation of placement of astral bodies, points of interest, planets, moons, asteroid fields, and stars. Basically, it is universe building effectively and builds into that procedural deck and all that sort of jazz as well. But it also visualizes everything in Engine, which is very useful. Those items, those planets and moons and stuff, can be grouped as well. A planet can be assigned to orbit a sun, and then moons can be assigned to orbit that planet. And items orbiting another are referred to as children. Placing these items and then grouping them can take a few minutes, then arranging them so they're the appropriate distance away, because we are working with huge distances, can take a few more. But the process of creating and placing items is extremely quick. They can build out these systems very quickly. Grouped items will keep all their children, so you can move them around if you want to. You can just create a set of planets and moons and that sort of stuff, and then just move them across into different systems, into different areas in that system, whatever you want to do. This is also part really of the object container streaming system that's going to allow for better performance, more players, and eventually with server meshing, all players in a single server together. This is basically the hierarchies of what's in every single object container streaming system, and then it will go down into planets and moons and that sort of stuff. So it'll be more and more divided. They'll keep on dividing that up. This is like the macro version of that. The lighting from the star and objects that block it are simulated, so moving planets would create different day-night cycles, intensity of lighting based on the distances, solar eclipses can occur naturally. It's all simulated really well, so there's some quite cool things that can happen, but it's not like a skybox with a sun in it. The sun is really there, the star is really there. Within SolEd, they are able to seamlessly transition down to any object on the fly, which is amazing as a time saver, as they don't have to compile their work and then put it into a build in Engine. They can literally go, how is this working now? And let's zoom down from where we are, from the sun, all the way down to a bush on a planet. Objects that have been created like Grimhex, Port Olisar, or Korea can just be placed, although procedural tech is going to be used for a lot of this in the future, where you're going to be able to have procedural stations and procedural truck stops, and large areas of this empty space can be filled with lots of different interesting things, like salvageable wrecks, like missions, like lots of different types of Port Olisar and satellites and that sort of stuff, which will all be built modularly. Almost certainly will have an artist's eye on them, might have a little bit of edits to them because they want procedural assistance, but it's going to be quite a lot of content there. The scale and size of this tool is actually quite hard to grasp. Planets and moons may be thousands of kilometers apart, but you can zoom in, as I said, to a bush on a planet's surface. Placement of planets and objects is important to artists, as they like to have the lighting looking as good as possible on certain things. That's going to be defined by positioning, but also for gameplay reasons, certain distances between objects and placing them in systems will be important. Quantum travel will allow you to travel distances very quickly, but not instantly. And the journey in Star Citizen is very important. You might get attacked, you might get quantum interdicted, you might pick up a distress signal, you might burn out one of your parts, or a part might get damaged en route that you have to go and fix. You might have got to fuel your quantum drive, and you might need to put out a distress signal. You get caught in some form of anomaly or something. Also, the length of time it takes to travel between areas is going to affect the economy massively because of trade and how long it takes to get resources between areas and how safe that is. So it's all very important, these distances between planets and objects, and I suspect they will be very heavily balanced and moved and changed and tweaked, which they can do very quickly with this SolEd system. Some other information there that I found quite interesting is that stars can have their own geometry and different sizes, but that's not going to be in 3.0, and obviously there's only one star. Moons and planets can have entirely different atmospheres, gravities, biomes, shapes, sizes, weathers, and will have quite often. So we're going to have quite diversity, very unique flora and fauna on areas, very unique planets with different biomes, although we might have very similar biomes on certain planets, like both might have Arctic tundra, something like that. Objects and moons, planets and ships can all be seen from the surface of whatever object you're on, if the correct distance, the atmosphere, and a few other factors are met. So based on that, how far it is away and all that sort of jazz, you will be able to see stuff if it's there. But When you see things like the mountains in the distance, or that ship in orbit, or that other planet, that other moon, that other station, they are tangibly and visitably there. You can go out and go to those mountains. You can go out and go and see that station. And everything, even though it's procedurally generated on these planets, is the same for everyone. It is effectively based on a procedure that is already set, and then obviously there's handcrafting of certain areas as well. It's just procedurally aided. The speed and orbit is calculated by the physics and relation to stars of the orbits of planets and moons and that sort of stuff. So orbits don't have to be circular either, and they can adjust the speeds of these orbits if they want to as well. But yeah, it's all physically created. It's a universe simulator, unless they change bits of it, and they have the tools to do whatever they want now. They've created a 4-planet system by the end of that stream, and based on the polls that viewers were given, they decided 4 planets, and they gave them weird names and things. It showed off how powerful and quick SolAid is to use, and building out those 50 to 100 systems for release isn't going to be so hard. August's Town Hall was on VFX, so effects in Star Citizen are scaled for various levels of detail based on the distance you're viewing them from, the ranges, the angles, what exactly is happening there. Laser blasts are going to look significantly damaged to ballistic blasts, and damage caused by ballistic weapons and plasma weapons and all that. That's all going to have its own unique look and feel. The effects for Star Citizen are heavily influenced by sci-fi films, books and TV. Each manufacturer is going to very much have its own look and feel for the way it flies, the way that the internal lighting's done, the damage states internally and externally, and that's down to even the VFX. So there's going to be lots of different things that are going to contribute to that. Drake and Misk, for example, are going to be very different looking, and yeah, their lighting, their engines, the engine trails are all going to be done effects-wise differently, and you're going to see variation in components as well with that kind of similar effects. Different component engines might cause different effects, not just based on the manufacturer. They also can make quite cool effects by adding sparks to thruster cones, as well as smoke to weapons. Imprints from feet and vehicles on the ground will be visible to all players, but at the moment they don't last very long. Eventually they want these imprints to last much longer, even for impacts and landing gear imprints, bullet impacts, all that sort of stuff. They want those effects to persist as well, and they're going to be using a decal handling system in the future that will track them and allow them to persist for as long as is sensible. If possible, they'd like it for them to stay there indefinitely until something changes them, but that might be beyond what the system is capable of. This is going to be useful for tracking players and finding bases in the future, and can obviously be used for missions and lots of other stuff. Effects on different materials with weapons will all have their own unique look and feel. As I said earlier, plasma weapons are going to look very different when they're shooting in snow, and you're going to have ballistic weapons firing against metal, and it's all going to look pretty cool. In Star Marine now, when you die and despawn, you'll like explode into a shower of sparks. They want to possibly add sonic booms in when you're flying in atmosphere as well, but that's a way off. They do want to look at that. That's going to take a while. They're currently focused on other things. The railgun has quite a cool, it charges up and then fires. It's got like little trails that follow it as well. They're still working on that railgun, still working on the trails, but the effects seem pretty cool. But that, yeah, charge time for a big explodey shot, that should be pretty good against ships and vehicles on the ground. There will be appropriate decals for damage to items, pipes, helmets, armour, your weapons, that will be in the future. Gravity will affect VFX in atmosphere. In fact, there's a whole new system for VFX in atmosphere, based on the different atmospheres, the density, the gravities, all of that will be taken into account with the VFX in the atmosphere. And they'd like to have engine trails subtly different from space to atmosphere as well, which they should hopefully be putting in the future. The new shields as well, they're designed to take into account the ship shape rather than just the generic blocks of ship that they had at the moment. If you lose a wing or part of your ship, your shield would deform too for your new kind of shape, whatever's sensible for the generator to do. There will be new types of projectile and ammo in the future as well with their own VFX style. Star Citizen effects are kind of made possible by the clever use of the Lumberyard Engine and the bespoke modifications that CIG have made to it. Lumberyard updates can be adapted and used if appropriate. The latest GPU particle improvements allow them to have 10 times more effects that can look much better with less performance, like intensive, or less performance heavy at the very least. So there's a lot more they can do now. This allows them to make some pretty cool and amazing effects, and not all of these effects are based on reality, though. They want to make them look cool, and that's the sort of artistic license that they'll be using. But it's all very impressive, and it's the systems and the long-term thinking that have come online with the engine and with a lot of the stuff the VFX guys are doing is pretty cool. If you don't like engine trials and stuff yourself, wait until we have it in-game with Alpha 3.0, and then we can see if we can do improvements. That's what the open development process is all about. Stuff that we don't like, when we actually have it in our hands, we will give them feedback on. And hopefully have it changed for the better or evolved into something else. Every month we have a giveaway for August. Again, it's an Ox Q because I have a few of them to give away. All you need to do is be subscribed to my YouTube channel and comment on any of my Star Citizen content during that month. Any questions about Alpha 3.0, about Star Citizen's development in general, or anything that we discussed here, a special thanks to my Patreons who allow me to create the amount of content I do. If you are interested in becoming one of them, there are links to Patreon as well as everything else we talked about below, so you can see the original source, videos and all that sort of stuff, especially with the creating the solar system. You actually get to see them create that out, which can be pretty cool if you're into that sort of stuff. Please don't forget to like and subscribe as well, as it really does help me, and I will see you in the verse.